In other news, Jewish groups in the United States are now condemning New York Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for a recent Instagram video she posted in which she compares the United States immigration policies on the Mexico border to Holocaust concentration camps. But beyond raising questions about Ocasio-Cortez personally, this latest incident of alleged anti-Semitism from the Democratic Party again casts doubt on whether the Democratic Party truly represents American Jewry. And here now with more is Heather Stone, the chair of the Democrats Abroad in Israel, and Davidi Hermelin, the president of the International Center for Public Diplomacy in Israel. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now Heather, I'd actually like to begin with you. Is this, in your opinion, the case of, minor, maybe even unintended anti-Semitism, or is this, being blown out of proportion, or is it maybe just, an unfortunate misuse of the vocabulary, or is it accurate?
I think that this is blowing things completely out of proportion and not taking seriously what is actually going on.
Okay.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is looking at what is going on the southern border, and there is actually a policy by the administration to take immigrants and move them en masse, place them into detention centers, and you can use terminology and say detention centers, concentration camps, and they are in fact concentration camps. They are in fact placing them into isolated centers in dehumanizing conditions and not allowing them to have access to social services, legal services. There's no fly zones over them. There's no way for people to gain access to them for human rights services. It is awful, and there have been a number of people who have examined this, including a number of Jewish groups, and so the use of concentration camps is not necessarily inappropriate. When you look at Jewish social justice groups that have also examined this, now I want you to also understand that the use of concentration camps is not necessarily sanctified only to the Shoah. Though that word has been used in the context of the detention of political prisoners, undesirables, illegals in Russia, in the United States, in Australia, in Britain, long before Nazi Germany. Now, I'm not trying to diminish what happened to the 6 million Jews in Germany at all. And what makes it different in the Shoah was, of course, the plan to exterminate the Jews. And I'm not trying to say that that's not a very important distinction. But what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to say is that there is a very real possibility that by calling immigrants coming to America dehumanizing terminology like termites and people carrying disease and making them into subhuman, which we have seen before and we have suffered as Jews before. And when we have a Torah that has told us 36 times to take care of the stranger because we were strangers ourselves, then we have a commitment to take a look at what is happening and not turn away, not turn away. And so we have to look at what is happening and we have to bear witness. We have to bear witness to this, and we also have to look at what is happening to give of ourselves. And the Democratic Party has put forward legislation. And that legislation, where is it? It's sitting in Mitch McConnell's graveyard. It's not moving.
All right, well, okay,
that is the fault of the Republican Party. The GOP is just not doing its job.
Well, that may be true, and that's an arguable point. But this policy of separating families at the border to voir dire, whether or not the adults who are coming with the children are really related to them, whether or not their intentions for entering the States, that started long before Obama. That's not a new policy.
No. This is different. Okay. What happened with Obama and before Obama was taking teenagers. Okay. This is taking children There's a 4-month-old baby that was just separated from his parents, okay? There was a father who was just put on a plane, and he said, I'm not getting on the plane without my child. And they said, just take your seat and we'll bring you the baby. And they closed the doors on the airplane, and the plane took off without the baby. That is inhuman. That is inhumane. That is what is happening. There are babies, there are toddlers that are being separated from their parents. Okay,
Davidi,
we're not talking about teenagers.
All right, well, I want to pass this over now, Davidi. What's your take on this, and how would you respond to Ms. Stone?
This is not my place to judge the internal policy of the United States on this subject, and I would like to, although I am speechless after I've heard some of the things here, but I will keep this principle that I will not judge American policy about American things. What is concerning me is that Heather and maybe others ignore the motivation of Ms. Cortez while saying concentration camps, because the real meaning is to say it happens every day, so it's not really important what happened to the Jews back then. And this is the motivation of Ms. Cortez. Unfortunately, in Israel, we respect and cherish the friendship with both parties. But I really recommend and hope for the Democratic Party that they will not experience what happened to the laborers in the United Kingdom when anti-Semitism became something that is happening. And the extremist progressive wing of the Democratic Party is very close to demonstrate apathic emotions regarding anti-Semitic expressions. And I think that some expressions, some terms are dedicated, not verbally, but semantically, to what happened in the Holocaust. And when Ms. Cortez said concentration camps, she meant like in the Holocaust. And no one in the United States, Democrats or Republicans, does not take people from the continent to collect them, to put them in concentration camps. It's not the same. No one is sending trains to bring those people.
I correct you.
So, please, I correct you now. And you should listen and understand that you cannot compare and you cannot use this. This is unheard, unacceptable, and history will judge you and your political friends harshly if you will be silenced when people use this term to describe something which is going now on your borders, because no one is sending trains to pick those people to make soaps of their bodies. How can you compare it? Shame on you.
They are not sending them to extermination camps. They are sending them to what I would use detention camps. Okay. These are what many rabbis, including a Rabbi Dania Rotenberg, wrote about in Esquire magazine 4 or 5 days ago, concentration camps. And they are not being sent by trains, they're being sent by planes from the southern border. And they're being sent to Sills. Sills was a concentration camp used to hold Japanese Americans during World War II. Now I have to tell you, they were held then and they are being held now in subhuman conditions. And that is a tragedy. That is a tragedy for Americans.
So I don't want to diminish the impact of what you're saying. I don't want to diminish that message, and I don't want to diminish the fact that what's happening on the southern border in the United States is certainly very problematic, and conscientiously it's a very difficult thing to navigate, situation to navigate. That being said, at the topic at hand, using the terminology of a concentration camp, I understand that perhaps she was trying to bring some sort of attention. But
she was quoting Rabbi Dania Rutenberg.
But again, going back to the heart of the question, does it not dilute the meaning when comparing things that are not extermination camps to the Holocaust?
No, because understanding that it is awful. It is awful when there are concentration camps. It is awful. We have seen this in the past. We have seen it.
But would you compare what's happening on the southern Mexico border to what's happening to Muslims in China, or what happened to the?
Yes, I do. I think that.
But we're not. But the United States is not killing people in those.
No, they're not. They're not. But we don't need to
motivation-
wait for that to happen. I think we need to call it out.
Do you think that the United States would get to that eventuality?
Listen, the fact that we have a president that uses language that calls Mexicans and South Americans termites and that they're rapists. He started his campaign by calling them rapists. Okay, that's how he started his first campaign.
That half-truth is worse than a lie, but I'm not trying to defend
Final
Excuse me.
comments,
this is the regular leftist terminology. Also, we can hear this in Israel.
Final comment.
But this is how we don't wait for it to get worse, because we have seen this before, and that's why we need to have real legislation that will actually change things. There is democratic legislation that's been introduced, and we need Mitch McConnell to do his job.
Okay.
I just hope that people see that the motivation is to criticize the president, and if we say like the Holocaust, so it's also okay.
No, it's not.
In this campaign. Shame on you.
Davidi Hermelin, Heather Stone, thank you so much for coming in. Unfortunately,
thank you very much.
Thank you.